At Staples Business Advantage, nothing can top the smarts and instincts of the thousands of experts on our team. While AI excels at
processing data, automating tasks, and providing insights for better decision-making.
And when they're used together, they're far more powerful than either is alone.
Whoa. I've never felt more alive.
Let Staples Business Advantage use today's latest innovations, plus our team's experience, to make business easier for you.
Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
human.
Hi, I'm Jim Perdue of Perdue Chicken. Unlike our competitor, who's gone back to feeding their chickens antibiotics, we at Perdue will remain no antibiotics ever. No antibiotics ever because we raise our chickens in a healthy environment, so they don't need them. No antibiotics ever takes more time and money, but it's the right thing to do. So when you buy chicken, look for the Perdue label to make sure your chicken is no antibiotics ever. Get the facts at Perdue.com.
To get the Crime Writers on After Show right now, go to patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, scheming families, conniving conmen, and dangerous killers. We saw a lot of great series and documentaries on the small screen this year. We'll each give our list for the best TV of 2022. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of the These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Lara Bricker. Hi, Lara.
Hey, Rebecca.
Also, finally, our resident Doubting Thomas, author of the City Trilogy of novels, host of Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, Toby Ball. Hi, Toby.
Hello, Rebecca.
Guys, I've got some breaking news to let you know about here in our final episode of 2022.
Oh, shit.
Bring it.
Oh, boy.
This is our last episode coming to you from the yoga loft above the bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi.
Oh, no. Did we lose our sponsor?
No, we did not lose our sponsor. Alyssa, who has been sponsoring us for 1 billion years and is the owner of the yoga loft, which is above a bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi.
We should mention she has the highest Patreon level, which is only available to one person.
Right. She gets it. She gets the studio naming rights. She's had a great business opportunity where she is merging with a new yoga empire. Collective. And so next week we will unveil the new name of our studio. But we're not losing Alyssa. We're just reflecting the growth in her business, which is fantastic.
I feel like we unveiled this one Patreon level many years ago thinking no one would grab it. Mm-hmm. And someone did. And now it's been monopolized. Maybe we should make
that Square Egg Studio.
But maybe we should make multiples of those available and rotate them. Because Alyssa has been dominating this. I'm happy for her.
No, we're loyal to Alyssa. Yeah,
let's let her have it.
You don't change TD Bank North to
that's right.
Eastern Bank to
you can have it forever. But we may raise your rent in the future. Not that we've known you've merged. All right. So Kevin, we are obviously on Thursday's program, Best of the Year, but what is coming up on next year's program?
Well, next year, we're going to be talking about the latest season of Verified. The podcast is called Full Disclosure.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to that. We have a lot to talk about, though, with our best TV picks of the year, so we should just get right down to it, right?
Read the thing I wrote for you.
Netflix, Hulu, and HBO, along with hits from Peacock and Apple TV Plus, came in strong in 2022. There were adaptations from podcasts and true crime, thought-provoking documentaries, and several favorites that returned for new seasons. There was even a girl-powered supernatural thriller. But which TV shows and documentaries truly stood out? We'll hear from all the crime writers for our best TV of 2022. Before we begin, though, much thanks to listener Linnea Motter for managing our list of reviews.
Thanks, Linnea. Thank you.
On crimewriterson.com. All of our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews are there. Also, all of our top 10 lists are listed in our show notes for this episode and our crimewritersOn.com.
You know, Linnea just does that.
And I just want to say...
It's fantastic. She just does it.
And I want to say, Kevin, once again, this is our best of reviews podcast. Maybe we've watched some TV shows that we liked also that are not included, right?
I think that's implied.
The World Cup final, for instance.
Yes, there you go, yes.
Maybe I've watched a reality show or two that I liked. We are talking about what we talked about on the podcast this year.
We'll tell people how they can find that out later.
Correct. All right, let's go. I'm going to go ahead and start the discussion right now with my number 10 pick for 2022, and that is Undercurrent.
So immediately when I heard that the submarine was missing, and I said, now it has finally happened. I didn't know at that time anything about Kim. We only knew that she was a journalist doing her job.
All right, so this was Aaron Lee Carr's two-part HBO documentary that looked at the life and death of journalist Kim Wall and the murder trial of Peter Madsen. This is the guy who killed her on his homemade submarine. This was an incredibly well-done, balanced, and sympathetic victim portrait. For me, it was an instant classic and a really great companion to the scripted series that was also on HBO, The Investigation. I really, really love this documentary. I loved it so much that I actually went on other podcasts to talk about it. Kevin, what came in at number 10 for you?
My number 10 pick is NBC's The Thing About Pam.
She's family. She's there for you. She's your neighbor. She's your friend from church. She's the one you never see coming. But that's the thing about Pam.
So this again is the dramatization based on the podcast, based on the NBC Dateline news report. It's a super meta look at the Pam Hupp case. It's got a very campy kind of take, very self-aware. When you hear Keith Morrison narrating himself, you know that's sort of the attitude they're going for. It's not perfect. I had problems with Renee Zellweger wearing a fat suit, and sometimes the laughs kind of came at the expense of the victims. However, Renee just kind of plays this with a lot of relish. It's a fun ride, and at the very end, she breaks the fourth wall, talks directly to camera about how we consume this story. So I thought that this was worthy of the top 10 list.
Let's move on to our number 9 picks. Toby, what is number 9 on your list?
Captive Audience.
A bizarre story with a happy ending.
Well, everybody wants a happy ending. And not very many true stories are a happy ending.
I'd heard about this story from Outside Magazine, I think, which had an article about Carrie Stainer, who murdered several people in a national park, and I'm spacing on which one. And I knew that his brother had been kidnapped and then had come back, but I didn't know the story behind that. So this documentary is that full story of that family. You know, I think there's a template out there for making good true crime television series. And I think that when you take a look at different shows, sometimes what you're looking for is how do they deviate from that template, or how do they innovate within that template? I think that I really liked that this one did is that there was a made-for-TV series about this family, and they showed clips from the series, and then they also had the actors who played the kids in the series now as adults read some of the transcripts from the court cases. At least the way I kind of was looking at it is I thought it was a really interesting way of kind of, you know, while you're telling the story, also taking a look at how did the public perceive the story? How did the public receive what happened through this made-for-TV movie? And then hearing from these actors who, you know, spent a lot of time thinking about these people and actually playing them, they both sort of spoke the lines and then also were kind of reflected on it. So that's my number 9.
So glad you picked this one, Toby. Kevin, what is your number 9 pick?
It is A Friend of the Family.
Do you know what a pedophile is? Is it a medical term? Well, actually, I'm just hearing the word for the first time myself. Apparently, it's a condition where an adult man develops a fixation on young girls.
Starring Jake Lacey, Colin Hanks, and Anna Paquin. This recalls the case of Bob Berchtold. He is Brother B, and like this really could have gone kind of campy because you remember the public reaction to the revelations in the documentary about this case, Abducted in Plain Sight. If you built off sort of what the audience thought about the story, it could have gone sort of in the way of the thing about Pam, but it doesn't. It really fleshes out the characters and really looks at the human, dramatic insights of those events. And it finds that it's actually fertile ground for coming up with compelling character studies and giving the actors a lot to work with. It also opens up with the real-life Jan speaking straight to camera, kind of explaining why she wanted this story to be told again. It's surprisingly touching.
Yeah, this thing was way more entertaining and fun than it had any right to be. I was very, very surprised at how compelling it was. This is a rare example of a true story that had no right to be as good as it was. I know, Toby, you had similar thoughts about this, right?
Yeah, so this was my number 7, but I think it's a rare example of a docudrama that really kind of adds to our understanding of a case that we've already heard about through a documentary podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I also loved this show. I mean, we had Jake Lacey, who was the creepy, awful man from season 1 of White Lotus in this. You know, I don't know why I didn't put this on my list. I did really
say it's
enjoy
number
that.
11.
I'm going to say it's number 11 on my list. Number 11. I'm going to pull a Rebecca right now.
Well, it was number 9 on my list. So, Lara, what is number 9 on your list?
Number 9 on my list is Landscapers.
You see, I've done something rather silly. And it might sound bad. Might sound very bad even, but it's not what it seems. Not at all. It's not what it seems, and just needs a little bit of clearing up, that's all. So
this was that sort of really bizarre show on HBO Max. In the middle of last winter, I think it came out. Has Olivia Colman and the guy that I just call Lupin from Harry Potter, David Thewlis. And it's a they call it unique love story. So it was this British couple, and they become the focus of an investigation. There's these 2 dead bodies discovered in the back garden of their house in England. And what was interesting about this is it was based on real events, but it was kind of dark, but it also had a comedic side to it. And it's based on the true story of the 1988 murders of a husband and wife. And, you know, how, you know, the husband and wife ended up being killed by their daughter and her husband and literally buried in the back garden for quite some time. So what was interesting about this show, what I liked about it was that they took a traditional true crime story, fictionalized it, but they did it in a way that it was really more of a cinematic experience that was something different that we hadn't seen done before. We watch so much true crime. After a while, some of it does start to all look the same. And this was, to me, really refreshing to see something out of the box, taking on a traditional true crime story. And it was really elevated by the performances of the couple in it, the husband and wife, Olivia Colman and Lupin in Harry Potter, because they just really took it up a notch. And also the lead detective was amazing in this. So I just thought it was just super interesting because it was different and it was quirky and dark and funny.
All right. So Kevin, tell us about your number 8 pick for 2022.
It's The Dropout.
This is the kind of tech we want our name on.
Why are they not actively seeking FDA approval?
Our technology is extremely valuable.
I don't think you're acting like a company that's financially solvent.
You don't think this is suspicious?
You don't understand the business.
And you don't understand the science!
So Amanda Seyfried really nails this as Elizabeth Holmes. She really makes the whole thing. As Ronald Young Jr. said, filling in for Toby, she should get the Oscar for television. And she did. It really improves on the podcast source material, The Dropout. And just like Friend of the Family, it finds the dramatic possibilities in the story and gives the characters room to play in that world. It's really a study in ambition and self-delusion, but Amanda also makes Elizabeth Holmes relatable and somewhat sympathetic, even though she's running a huge swindle.
Yeah, so that's Lara. That's your number 10, and we should point out, and that's my number 7. And yes, as Kevin pointed out, everyone is talking about Amanda Seyfried's Emmy-winning performance, but huge props also to Naveen Andrews as Sunny Balwani. And also, by the way, super hard to take a story from the news and telling it straight, but also making it fun.
I mean, I just think like what I liked about this one is that I felt like it really brought it to another level of this relationship between, you know, Elizabeth Holmes and Sunny. in that we saw the background of the relationship and how they got together and they're like riding around in a little bike and all that stuff. I just felt like it took it, yes, in a fictionalized way, because a lot of this was sort of imagined as to how it happened. But I felt like Amanda Seyfried's performance in this and just the other part of the story, the dynamic of how, for me, that relationship between Elizabeth and Sonny began and how it continued and how that then contributed to, and also seeing the people that were involved in the like behind the scenes at Theranos that were with her from the beginning. So I liked that part of it, seeing kind of all the other people that were involved in this.
So Lara, what is your number 7 selection on our best of TV list?
My number 7 selection is The Tinder Swindler.
Because in a sense, I still loved him, you know? Or the person I thought that he was. Like, you know, everything's a lie. But then you still have this fairy tale that's going on your phone, you know? Simon with, like, still the heart behind it. Because I could never, like, I couldn't remove it. Because I still wanted him to be true, you know?
So this was that short 90-minute show on Netflix. I kind of found this a cautionary and yet entertaining tale. You know, we hear a lot about con men, we hear about dating schemes, catfishing, etc. The way that this story was told and played out, I love, you know, the setup with the woman that's on there, like flipping through her phone, talking about how many Tinder dates she's been on. Like, she's a Tinder expert. It didn't need to be any longer than it was, but it was also rage-inducing to see how this man was just going from one to the next and getting the money and like, oh, now I have my private plane. But it was very satisfying for me, the like sort of with that justice warrior sort of thing I have, to see how the women got him in the end. So for me, The Tinder Swindler, maybe not as intense as some of the things we watched, but it was a fun watch.
Lara, I will never love anything more than watching a lady sell her dude's clothes on eBay. That was amazing. Incredibly satisfying. Kevin, what did you have for number 7?
So my number 7 pick is Gladbeck, The Hostage Crisis.
You don't think it's better to give up?
Definitely not. This is how it will go down. Shots will be fired in there. My buddy is especially dangerous, and the last thing will be...
So this, I think, is the best documentary on my list anyway. I had never heard of this crazy hostage story, a bank robbery kind of gone wrong in West Germany in the late 80s. These bank robbers just get in a car with a hostage and drive to nowhere, and then like hijack a bus and drive to nowhere. And then
that was kind of fun.
There was so much suspense because we, I'll speak for myself, American audiences aren't very familiar with the story, so we didn't know what happened, but it's all contemporaneous news coverage. The access was amazing, and we experienced Stockholm Syndrome because we're there hearing the robbers and hijackers, and we're kind of wondering what's going to happen. Buses and cars going to nowhere. It's, nowhere to go, nowhere to stop. This was a must-watch for me.
Toby, you like this one too, right?
Yeah, this is my number 10. There's not even a second of voiceover, I think. It's just all done through editing. It's taking newscasts and then footage and just editing it all together to tell this story. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time. I thought it was very powerful and just concisely told. And yeah, I loved it.
Okay, so Lara, we are at number 6. What was your number 6 TV show of the year?
My number 6 TV show of the year was Fireboys.
I don't only want to do good for me, but I also, like, my mom's my encouragement. And, like, if I could get time knocked off and while doing something that I like, that would be, like, pretty cool.
So this was that documentary about the juvenile offenders in California who were, when they moved up the sort of hierarchy of good behavior within the juvenile justice system, they were granted the privilege of going out and fighting forest fires. So in the beginning, you're thinking, oh, this is really interesting. What a different approach. Hey, this is kind of cool. But then you realize this is a rage-inducing juvenile justice story because they are being sent out there into a ton of risk. They are being paid like $2 a day. And then the ones that actually decide, hey, I want to be a firefighter after they've been mentored by these experienced forest fighters out there in California are like, yeah, you don't qualify because you have a criminal record. So I thought this just was, I mean, it was just so unique in terms of, you know, you think about like the old days when somebody would get like sent off into the military, you know, oh, we're going to send them off to the military. Well, here they're like, we're going to send them off to fight fires. But now we're going to tell them, sorry, X, Y, and Z, you don't qualify to do this. So this was something that this definitely sort of shone the light on something that's happening that could be a positive thing, but really needs to have something done to tweak the system so that, you know, there are opportunities and that these boys aren't being taken advantage of. And when you finish watching it, you're like, well, that was kind of some food for thought. It was really unique. And I mean, hello, I was hoping to see Wyrick in like a guest appearance out there fighting fires in California, but alas, I did not.
So Toby, you have a very different number 6, but it's one that I really loved as well.
Yeah, so my number 6 is Candy.
I just figured you had your hands full with that darling baby and that you wouldn't mind. The thing is, I'm just going to have to swing by and pick up Christina's bathing suit for the swim lesson. So is there a time that's good for you?
So Candy's another docudrama that's based on a true crime. This one is a very, very dark comedy. Part of what I liked about it is Jessica Biel, of all people, and Melanie Linsky are just both great. Like they both just carry the whole thing. I kind of thought it was a really feminist take on the whole case. You know, there's the Bechdel test, which is in a movie, do two women talk and it's not about a man? I think the reverse Bechdel test would probably be failed in this because I don't think there's a scene. Well, there is. So like for the most part, it's just all revolves around these women and then their husbands they're sort of secondary. And there's one scene where they're talking to each other and it's at a barbecue and they just don't have anything to say to each other. Like one says, you know, you're flipping the bratwurst wrong or something, which was pretty funny. So anyway, just really smart writing. It has a great sort of period look to it. And again, it's like Jessica Biel in particular and also Melanie Linsky are just both just like chew up the scenery. So I like that one a lot.
All right, so Kevin, we're going to get back to more great Melanie Linsky content in a little bit. Before we do that, we need to cover the business section. So what is going on our Patreon right now?
Well, if you go to patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media, one of the things you can listen to is this week's Crime Writers on After Show, where we go into some of our top 10 TV picks, things that we haven't reviewed. So stuff that's not going to make our list, but other things we'd recommend that you watch. Also coming up, Toby Ball's going to be recording another deep dive book club. And for folks who want to get their homework done for the January episode, Toby, what should they be reading?
The upcoming book is called Trailed, One Woman's Quest to Solve the Shenandoah Murders by Catherine Miles. It's gotten a lot of accolades. It's sort of best of 2022 true crime books. So I'm looking forward to it. And I've got some really good guests.
Elsewhere in Partners in Crime World's the latest episode of These Are Their Stories dropped. We're looking at the classic Law & Order episode Encore. And folks may remember this is the one that starred Larry Miller, the comedian, as this obnoxious club owner. Well, he came back for a second episode after he, weaseled out of killing his first wife. This is the one with the second wife. What makes this episode really special is that our guest is the writer of that episode, Ed Zuckerman, an Emmy Award winner. He wrote more than 150 episodes, or well, I think 50 episodes.
It was incredible.
Yeah, he was great. Gave us some good insight, some behind-the-scenes stuff. Talked about the 4 times that Dick Wolf fired him.
Literally every time we asked him, like, did you mean to do that in that scene? He was like, I don't know. Oh, yeah, I totally meant to do that in that scene.
If you wrote it, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. Also want to let you know, because it's Thursday, there's a new edition of the Crime Writers On newsletter that comes out. So if you're not getting yours, just go to crimewriterson.com, put your email address in there. We'll send it to you. You get stuff like Crime Writers On behind the scenes. You get to look at the pet of the week, to look at the new Crime Writers On merch, stuff like that.
All right, so Kevin, before we end the business section, do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Jediah Cummins and Andrea Scanter. Bless you.
Thank you, you Patreon patron saints, and thank you for everyone who's a Patreon devil of the week. And also thank you for everyone who's just muscling through the business section. Kevin, are we done with the business section?
Thus ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out right now.
At Staples Business Advantage, our experts can help you find furniture that fits any design and budget, while AI can
recommend products based on preferences, generate 3D models for visualization, and optimize space planning for office furniture.
take advantage of our team's eye for style and design.
And my eye for, wait, I have no eyes. Only algorithms.
At Staples Business Advantage, furnishing your office is easy. And with the best warranty in the business, we're committed to you now and down the road.
Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
human.
Hi, I'm Jim Purdue of Purdue Chicken. Unlike our competitor, who's gone back to feeding their chickens antibiotics, we at Purdue will remain no antibiotics ever. No antibiotics ever because we raise our chickens in a healthy environment, so they don't need them. No antibiotics ever takes more time and money, but it's the right thing to do. So when you buy chicken, look for the Purdue label to make sure your chicken is no antibiotics ever. Get the facts at Purdue.com.
I never did anything to harm my daughter or my granddaughter.
The test is about to begin. Please remain still.
Casey Anthony's Parents, the lie detector test. Watch now, only on A&E. And watch next day on the A&E app.
All right, we are halfway through our favorite TV of the year that we have reviewed. Lara Bricka, we are at number 5. What is your number 5 selection of 2022?
My number 5 selection is Blackbird on Apple TV.
We would like you to transfer to another prison and befriend someone to elicit a confession.
We need the precise location of a dead body.
You need?
We suspect that the man that you'll read about in that file has killed 14 women, maybe more, but we only tied him to 2, and we only have one of the bodies.
We'd like to find the other one, and maybe 12 more.
This was unexpected. So this is a story. We have Jimmy Keene. He's beginning his prison sentence. He's like the hot guy going into jail, kind of like James Dean, and he gets an offer. You need to get a confession. If you can get a confession from this suspected killer, Larry Hall, you'll be free. And, it goes from there. So this is developed by Dennis Lehane. It's based on a novel called In with the Devil, a Fallen Hero, a Serial Killer, and a Dangerous Bargain for Redemption, which was written by James Keene, the hot guy. I don't know if he's hot in real life, but anyway.
He is.
Oh, okay. All right. So what I loved about this is, first of all, the casting was tremendous. Taron Egerton as James Keene and Paul Walter Hauser as Larry Hall. The Larry Hall character was like off the charts in terms of the way he was played. I mean, both of them. And, at first I was surprised I liked this as much as I did because it's kind of a typical true crime story. You've got somebody in jail and you need to do the snitches get stitches and the cellie is going to get the confession and go and, snitch. But between the casting and the pacing and just the overall vibe of the show had a little bit of a True Detective Mindhunter sort of feel to me. This was a real case. And so, of course, I went and looked it up afterwards. But it was kind of a surprise. I wouldn't have thought of Apple TV as the place I was going to find a story like this and a show like this. But I really enjoyed it.
Me too. It was my number 8. I fucking love this show. I know we didn't all agree on it. Taron Egerton, my new favorite. Paul Walker Hauser, Revelation also. It was one of Ray Liotta's last gigs. Loved everything about this show. All right, so it's up to me. For my number 5 picked, I have selected the final season of Ozark.
She wants to kill him.
Okay. If I tell him, then, I put her in danger for no good reason.
How about keeping him alive to keep our family safe? I say that's a pretty good reason.
Wendy, you know him. He'd kill her just for thinking it.
That's not our business.
Not since The Americans has a scripted multi-season series held up for so long and gotten better and better and better each season. I remember when this show started and I and a lot of other people called Ozark the Breaking Bad light. But as time has passed, I have come to think of Breaking Bad as sort of this overwrought, too violent, overrated, over hyper masculine show. But Ozark, it is a great show that sort of surpasses Breaking Bad for me. There is depth there. It's not just in the storytelling. It's not just in the performances. It's in the arc itself. There is an American story. It's about aspiration. It's about the rot of wealth. It's about the way that we use the underclass. I think about this show all of the time. It's Jason Bateman. It's Laura Linney. And of course, the exceptional Julia Garner.
Jesus Christ, Marty.
It landed the fucking plane. This show for me was number 5. And Toby, for you, it was also on your list. Where did it land for you?
So I had it at number 4. Like, I agree with just about everything you said. I think Ozark is sort of a classic series. It also got better with every season, I thought, until the last one. Like, I don't think this is the best season of Ozark, but what it does do is satisfactorily end it, which I was really worried about because it was so great for so long. And like, how do you, as you say, land the plane? Because so many other shows have not done it, and they definitely did. And that was an accomplishment in itself. So yeah, it was number 4. I'm sorry, there's not going to be another one.
Speaking of number 4 selections, the rest of us were in agreement about this one. Kevin, what did you select?
My number 4 pick is Bad Sisters.
What we're doing is really, really bad. No, it's not. It's survival. Someone's not coming out the other side of this. And it's not going to be me. And it sure as shit is not going to be one of my sisters.
It's got a great setup here. Who wouldn't want a sister that would go that far for you to kill your prick of a brother-in-law? It's not a laugh a minute, but it's amusing while keeping this mystery going. They're 2 separate timelines. What happened before the prick's death? What happens afterwards? And it's like hard to keep mystery going in both of those. But they did, and I thought it was very enjoyable. The ending, I think, could have been stronger. The solution to the problem that this was facing, where you have these 2 life insurance agents trying to solve this case. I think it was pretty obvious how everybody could have gotten what they wanted. But it's a great feat of writing, acting, and directing by Sharon Horgan.
I think it's fucking bullshit that more people aren't talking about the show. And I know it's on your list as well. Lara Bricker, for you, it's number 4.
Yeah, I loved this show. I mean, who doesn't like some like badass Irish sisters sit around doing their thing? And I hated the villain in this show so much that I just couldn't wait to see how he died. I just like hated that prick. So, I mean, I just thought it was great. I mean, you have the scenery, you've got the location porn, you've got this really interesting cast of people, and I mean, all these ways to kill somebody. So I loved it.
Toby, where was it for you?
I had it at number 2. I was kind of going through the list, and I came to this, and I thought, this is the show that I most looked forward to watching.
I love that for you.
And so I put it at number 2 for that reason. It was a great watch, really good acting, good writing. I agree with Kevin, like the ending, it wasn't spectacular, but it didn't sort of undermine the whole rest of it, which I found it's just a real pleasure to watch.
I love it that you have that at your number 2. But here we are at our top 3 picks. Lara Bricker, what is your number 3 pick for 2022?
My number 3 pick is The Vow Season 2.
I think everybody just assumes, I knew everything and I should have known everything. But when everything started to blow up, I didn't know why, really.
This is the 7-episode second season of the show that follows the people that are in the NXIVM cult. And this second season just took it up a notch from the first season. We learned so much more about what was actually happening with Keith. Like in the first season with Keith Raniere, we're like, oh, he's like having sex with some women and they got a brand. In the second season, you're like, shit, he knows they're getting brands. He's trying to cover it up. He's got like a sorority house filled with sex slaves. And there's a woman that was in a room for 2 years who couldn't leave, but actually could leave because he was mentally controlling her. But what really took season 2 up a notch was that we have NXIVM co-founder Nancy Salzman in there. And she is extremely forthcoming about her role in the cult, her feelings now as she's coming out of it. And hello, can we ever forget the scene where Nancy Salzman sees the sex toy. And that is why this is number 3 on my list.
So, Kevin, what is your number 3 pick for 2022?
My number 3 pick is HBO's The Staircase.
You didn't put in cause of death.
I did. She bled out. Without skull fracture, blunt force trauma.
Someone holding something caused the impact to make these wounds.
That's not for me to conclude in here.
You think the murder weapon just flew through the air, held by no one?
So this really goes beyond the original documentary with its dramatic pursuits. It's more about family dynamics, but it does obviously go into the case. It plays it straight with the major 3 theories and presents each one as plausible all at once. But I do think that Colin Firth sort of captures Michael Peterson's persnickety personality, we'll say. It brings something different than the 12-hour documentary does. It really, treats all the people in this show as, fully fleshed out, including the victim, Kathleen Peterson. And man, if you ever wanted to know how the owl theory could actually work, their demonstration is fucking terrifying and illuminating all at once. It really changed the way I do my walks at night.
So, Lara and Kevin, your number 3's made nowhere on anyone else's list.
Yeah.
But Toby, your number 3 did make other people's lists. So what was number 3 on your list?
My number 3 was The Patient.
If I don't figure this out, he's going to strangle me and I'm going into that grave. Or the next one. I know it's crazy, but I was starting to connect with him.
So this show, it's all about the writing and the acting, right? It's basically takes place on one set. I think there's a couple things that don't take place there. It's the basement of this guy's house. The 2 main actors are Steve Carell and Domhnall Gleeson. And it's, for people who don't know, it's about a serial killer who kidnaps his therapist and holds him hostage. Well, he doesn't really hostage. He just holds him prisoner and wants him to help him.
Cure him?
With his mental problems. So Steve Carell plays Alan Strauss, who's the therapist. And that character is just sort of excellently written as a therapist. He does a great job with the therapy talk and reflection and stuff. I mean, both characters are very well drawn. There's one scene of violence, which is shockingly violent. And I think in a show that's otherwise very talky, it kind of reminds you of exactly what the stakes are and who one of these 2 people is. Because after a while, you kind of don't see him as a killer. You see him as a guy with problems. And it's oh no, this is serious. I also kind of thought, again, I don't know if I was reading into it or whatever, but it seemed as though it had a very sort of political outlook on things and that it had comments to make about how do you deal with unreason and what works and what doesn't. Yeah, so it I thought it was great. So that's why it's my number 3.
Same. It was like watching a play on TV with a playbill where you were like, I don't fucking want to go watch this. This seems super grim. Who would want to go see this? And then you can't look away because it's super fucking fun to watch. It's so good. Kevin, this was number 2 for you, right?
Yeah, this was number 2. I think it was great performances. The plot is wound tighter than a 12-day clock. We fear for Alan, but we also start to feel for Sam. It's just sort of it's a brilliant concept for a story, a brilliant, disturbing ending. And in a way, I'm kind of disappointed we can't come back for season 2.
Okay, so now we are at our final 2 picks for the top 2 TV shows of 2022. I'm going to reveal my number 2 pick for 2022, which is The White Lotus Season 2.
Whenever I stay at a White Lotus, I always have a memorable time. Always.
And you are in our Blossom Circle, so you are very important to us.
But I was a petal, and I've worked my way up to Blossom. Yeah.
I did not think I would enjoy anything more than I enjoyed The White Lotus Season 1, which was all about white privilege in a beautiful, destination. But The White Lotus Season 2 was all about white privilege plus toxic masculinity plus sexual jealousy in a beautiful destination. I loved everything about The White Lotus Season 2. except in the first episode or two where I thought maybe I don't like this as much as season 1. And then I did. I cannot tell you how much the performances in this show drew me in and how much I enjoyed the discourse on Twitter where men were like, I don't like this, made me so comfortable with the fact that I liked this so fucking much. I'm not going to get into it more. Just listen to our review of White Lotus Season 2 to hear more about how much I liked this. This show landed the plane, this season especially, more than many other seasons of any show ever have landed the plane. The art direction, the costuming, it's just perfectly executed. I fucking love this show. And it's on all of your lists. Lara, it's on number 8 on your list.
Yeah, I loved the ending. Actually, I loved all of the show. I love Stifler's mom there, whatever her name is, Tanya.
Yeah.
She will always be Stifler's mom.
Jennifer Coolidge?
Yes, Jennifer Coolidge was fantastic in this. I just wanted to watch this every week. I couldn't wait to watch this every week. And the ending was just so off the charts when Tanya realizes that the rich gays are going to kill her. And it was like played out so perfectly. I loved this show. And Albie still needs to just get fucking run over by the Lamborghini.
Fuck Albie. Kevin Flynn, this is number 5 for you, right?
Yeah, my number 5. I mean, a great, lovely location. It continues to make these larger points about society and politics without detracting from the story at all. Great casting. And certainly maybe someday I'll get to Sicily, but I will not go out in the water.
Maybe we'll get there someday. Toby, what about you? White Lotus Season 2 was also on your list at number 5.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I thought some of the plots were more compelling than others, but the last episode just nailed all of them. I mean, I think they all finished in a way that was satisfying and made sense. And, the big one was surprising. Yeah, so number 5.
At Staples Business Advantage, our team of experts can help you find the breakroom products to satisfy everyone's preferences, while AI can
suggest popular items, monitor stock levels, optimize pricing, and automate reordering.
AI can do a lot of things.
But I can never know the taste of a truly great cup of coffee. Sigh.
But you also can't get hangry.
This is true.
Let Staples Business Advantage use today's latest innovations, plus our team's experience, to make stocking your team's breakroom easier for you.
Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
human.
Hi, I'm Jim Perdue of Perdue Chicken. Unlike our competitor, who's gone back to feeding their chickens antibiotics, we at Perdue will remain no antibiotics ever. No antibiotics ever because we raise our chickens in a healthy environment, so they don't need them. No antibiotics ever takes more time and money, but it's the right thing to do. So when you buy chicken, look for the Perdue label to make sure your chicken is no antibiotics ever. Get the facts at Perdue.com.
I want people to understand this ordeal. It's taken a toll on both of us.
Casey Anthony's parents respond after 15 years of allegations.
I've gotten blamed for something I didn't do, and it tears me up inside.
This can change our life. This is serious.
This is their final response.
The test is about to begin. Please remain still.
Casey Anthony's parents, the lie detector test. Watch now, only on A&E. And watch next day on the A&E app.
Okay, so we are at our number 1 shows of 2022. Lara Bricker, I'm going to start with you. What was your number 1 show of 2022?
My number 1 show was Only Murders in the Building Season 2.
We stopped by, we suss out the crowd. I slip into Bunny's closet, down her secret elevator, into the alley.
Where we can be with the painting.
And then back up to Bunny's and out.
Yes! Oh, that's a plan. I think this is really good.
We are getting the hang of this.
Absolutely. You can tell it's our second season.
Only Murders in the Building brought me so much joy in 2022. I loved Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez and her deadpan humor. There was the parrot that swears, the picture of the guy with his naked balls that was like Steve Martin's dad. I mean, we have star power all over. Shirley MacLaine drinking cocotinis. And it was just everybody that I recommended this show to loved it because it was just such a fun show to watch. And Again, I would like to say, I think it was Martin Short's character said, I'd rather be dead than boring. And that is just basically like my motto for life. So Only Murders in the Building season 2, number 1 show of 2022 for me.
So Lara, for you, that was number 1. For me, it was number 6. And for Toby, that was number 8.
Yeah. I mean, I still really liked it. You know, the first season was just so fresh and unusual and such a surprise that when it comes back for the second season and you know what to expect, a little bit of that freshness is gone. But, you know, Steve Martin he's like my favorite celebrity. Like, I love everything he does. You know, Martin Short is awesome. I mean, it's just, you know, it's a great piece of TV. And yeah, so I liked it a lot. Number 8 is good.
Yeah, solid. Number 6 for me. It's funny. It's meta. It's done with, you know, love for both the genre and the medium. It's an entertaining mystery, but you know, these characters, they also have like a real sadness in them. So they're really well drawn, surprisingly touching. And finally, one last fuck you to Steve Martin for following Toby and Rebecca, but not me.
And not me.
Yeah,
fuck
Lara.
you, Steve Martin.
Fuck you, Steve
You're going
Martin.
down, man.
It's your fault,
We're gonna
Lara, for
run
putting
you
number
over
1
in the fucking Lamborghini.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. I still check once a week to make sure Steve is still following me, and I'm still grateful every time he does.
What do you got to do to get canceled by Steve Martin?
He's literally the nicest person and the best person
He
in the
must not
entire
like
world.
cats or something. I don't know.
Steve Martin loves everything, Lara.
Apparently not, Toby.
Toby.
Yeah.
What is your number 1 pick of 2022?
My number 1 pick is we need to talk about Cosby.
It feels like we haven't gotten to the root of the discussion. What do we do about everything we knew about Bill Cosby and what we know now?
So I was actually quite surprised that I was the only person to have this in my top 10.
Me too.
I thought this was really, really fascinating.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
You know, Bill Cosby is such, he's a monumental figure in our culture. You know, he's the first Black actor to be a network TV show lead. He was America's dad as Clifford Huxtable. You know, he was just kind of ubiquitous, you know, as I was growing up. And then, like, how do you reconcile that with being a sexual predator? And so that's what this show is about, is sort of this sort of dual thing about like what a massive cultural figure he was. And then also what you know, I mean, he's a serial sexual predator. I mean, there's no getting around it. So I thought the show tackled it with a lot of nuance. It had great interviews. You know, you can see people struggle with sort of the real looking up to Bill Cosby or recognizing what he stood for sort of culturally, and at the same time being just aghast, horrified, disappointed by his personal life. You know, I think there's an instinct is to nullify his cultural contribution because of his personal actions, like not being able to separate the art from the artist. And I think this kind of is in some ways sort of a meditation about whether you can do that and whether does his personal, the things that he did outside of his celebrity, does that affect how you look at the way he was able to be a pioneer? So I thought it was super interesting. I thought it was by far the most sort of thought-provoking thing I saw. And that's why it's my number 1.
Kevin, can you please reveal your number 1 pick for 2022?
The best TV show of 2022 is Yellowjackets.
I'm sure the plane has an emergency transmitter sending out a distress signal. They'll be here to rescue us by morning.
Still, maybe we should conserve some food in case they don't get here till later in the day.
You want to save the corn nuts?
You know, it's really easy to forget the enthusiasm you might have for a particular podcast or TV show 12 months after. Maybe that's why sometimes these lists get a little more weighted towards titles that come out in the, you know, 3rd or 4th quarter of the year. But it's hard to forget the excitement and the, you know, the anticipation of every new episode of Yellowjackets. Remember, this is a story about the girls' soccer team. They're playing Crash in the wilderness. They were gone for 19 months. They came back. There are 2 storylines that we follow. Stars Melanie Lynskey, Juliette Lewis, and Christina Ricci playing the adult characters, but I think even more compelling are the younger actresses doing that timeline. 2 timelines. There's a flash forward and the flash back, and it's just like we know something really fucked up happened out in the woods, and we still don't know what it is yet, but who the fuck fell into the tiger pit in the first 2 minutes of the show? Whose heart are they eating? It's spooky, it's feminist, it's mysterious, it's an instant classic, and by the way, it's coming back in March.
Lara Bricker, this was your number 2.
Yeah, I loved this show. It was disturbing but addictive. And, you watch the whole season to find out if they're really cannibals or not. And so much going on. We have Melanie Lynskey in the beginning and folding her laundry and then whipping out her big vibrator. Remember that scene?
And then slaughtering a rabbit.
Yeah. And just being there was just so much about this show that was so good. And in the beginning, when you see them running around and, you see this it's like this creepy, that freaking pit with the spikes and stuff. I mean, there was also some really sort of political, like you said, some sort of feminist issues. We have the abortion scene.
Literally.
Literally.
Abortion scene.
And that was so fucking timely to have that scene in this show in this year. It was just, aside from those sort of statement parts of it, it was just entertaining, but it was, there were times I was I don't know if I can watch this anymore, but I was I can't stop. And I looked forward to it every week.
Yeah, this is my number 1 show as well. I think I said something like this when we reviewed the show. I don't think I've ever had a more visceral, G-spot reaction to a television show in my adult life.
Oh!
It's feminist as fuck. It has incredible interiority, ideal casting. It's atmospheric as hell. Melanie Lynskey as hell. It's a very risky show, though. Season 2 could be fucking terrible. I am 100% saying season 2 could suck. That being said, season 1 could go Hall of Fame, one of the best single season shows of television in history. And for that alone, this is my number 1 show of 2022. Period. And when I say period, I mean period. You know, guys, what I mean?
Synced up periods? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Synced up everyone's. Well, so this is where you hit people's G-spot, Toby.
Exactly.
Put this in the VCR.
Exactly.
Warm up that oven.
It's an interesting date show.
Hey, babe, want to watch a little Yellowjackets?
All right, that's going to do it. Before we need to go, Lara Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
So this week we have a super holiday themed cat of the week, and it comes to us from Sarah Royer, and it is Brady. He is a service dog in training. Sarah's mom has been raising raising puppies for Canine Companions for Independence for 25 years. Brady is her 24th puppy. And the picture is he got to go see Santa and Mrs. Claus. And one of the first stories I wrote way back in the newspaper early days was about a woman in Exeter who was raising a puppy for Canine Companions for Independence. And she was a local nurse. And I wrote this story. And then who happened to be in the hospital room when young Will was born? But that lady whose dog I wrote about. And I was like, hey, I wrote about your dog. Totally random. But it's an adorable picture of Brady with Santa and Mrs. Claus, even though it looks like he might have his little muzzle strap on so he doesn't nip any of Santa's cookies.
All right, Lara Bricker, of course, if folks want to send us recommendations for cat or dog or any animal of the week, they can email us at crimewritersOn@gmail.com. They can join us in our official Crime Writers On Facebook group community. But if they want to search you out on social media, how can they find you on Twitter or other places? What's your handle, Lara Bricker?
They can find me at Lara Bricker.
And Toby Ball, if folks want to find you on social media, how can they find you there?
At Toby Ball NH.
Kevin Flynn, what about you?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
And if you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you can find me at Reb Lavoie. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Crime Writers On, and please join our incredible community in our official Crime Writers On Facebook discussion group. Just go to our regular Facebook page, hit join the group. We'll let you in. Support the show at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. You'll get the Crime Writers On After Show, Married with Podcast, Lara Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, and Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcasts. Our theme song was composed and performed by Ty Gibbons. Our line editor is the wonderful Olivia Burdett. The executive producer of this fine program is Kevin P. Flynn. This show was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio.
One more time.
Otherwise known as Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement, where we subscribe to 7 streaming services because there's nothing good on network TV. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later. Okay, so here I am for my number 3 pick of 2022, and I'm sorry, but for me, it's The Vow Season 2. And my thoughts are The Vow Season 2 was...
That's Lara saying that.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, fuck.
Did you think like, oh my goodness, my words.
I didn't even like this that much.
I was like, wait a minute, I thought I had to say something here.
I thought I also picked The Vow for something.
You did not.
I thought I did.
You did not.
Fuck, I'm literally just reading.
Partners in Crime Media.
At Staples Business Advantage, our team of experts can help you find the breakroom products to satisfy everyone's preferences, while AI can
suggest popular items, monitor stock levels, optimize pricing, and automate reordering.
AI can do a lot of things.
But I can never know the taste of a truly great cup of coffee. Sigh.
But you also can't get hangry.
This is true.
At Staples Business Advantage, we help you select from 2,000 breakroom products, so you can be sure there's something for everyone.
Yum. Sign up today and save 20%.
Staples Business Advantage.
Business is
human.